Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. Hey, it is Thursday, I think. Don't know how I know it's Thursday, but I think it is Thursday. Good morning, everyone. Come on into the kitchen. Hope you are all doing well. Shout out to everybody, and that number is increasing who's in lockdown. It is such a bloody drag. I'm not going to lie. What can I say? Just hang in there, everyone. We're all in it together, and those of you who are not in lockdown, enjoy your freedom and keep safe. Good morning, everyone. So good to have you here. I can see all the regulars coming in, which I love. You know, this is like a growing family that we have here just to ourselves, which is really nice in this little half an hour or so, or 45 minutes together. So good to have you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the waves. And sorry, good evening to those of you in the USA. I have not forgotten you. Great to have you here, everybody. Lisa, hey, good morning. So good to see you here. We were talking yesterday so you can't even talk. And you know why? Because I've already had a sip of wine. Because you all encouraged me yesterday when we were talking about having a blah day. And if you happen to be cooking with wine, it's very tempting. So I have measured my wine already in this jug, and I need 200 mils. And I may have measured a little bit more just so I can have a little sip along the way, just because, you know what, it's 11:30, it's lockdown, and it's acceptable, right? Yeah, good morning from Melbourne too. Hi everybody. Yeah, so you know what, this is what it's come to. You know what, I've got a nice light red that I'm going to put in, and why not have a little sip? And you don't mind that I'm drinking out of the measuring jug because it's just for my family, so it's not like anyone else is going to have my germs. Good morning, Maureen. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I guess I could just start talking about the recipe sometime soon. I'm just trying to see if my glasses are foggy or if the camera's foggy. Maybe it's just a foggy day. Thank you, Linda. Thank you. From Toronto. So good to have you here. Hi, Esther. My sister's on again. Hi, everybody. Yeah. All right. Let's get serious for a moment and talk food, because I have a recipe to share with you that comes from our very, very first book. And I love all the recipes we collected, don't get me wrong. But the first book, they just feel a little bit closer to, I don't know, closer to home, I guess, because it is their recipes from our homes mostly. It's closer to our heart in some way just because it's from our home. And so when I cook recipes from this first book, it just takes me right back to when we started together Monday Morning Cooking Club in 2006, which is so long ago now. So this recipe comes from Kathy Milwitsky, one of the Mayerovitz sisters. I'll talk about them a bit later because we need to get started, and I'll talk more about her story because it's very lovely. So today we are making Perogen. It's a South African thing, comes from Lithuania. It's a little meat pie with flaky pastry that they eat in soup. I say they, it's a very South African thing. The Australian Ashkenazi Jews would not have something with pastry in soup. We would have a krepla, which is like a soft dough in soup, like a dumpling more than something with pastry. And that's the difference. And so it's a unique thing. When I first got the recipe and they said they eat it in soup, we're like, what? Really? In the soup? And they do, and I'm not judging. Well, I was judging a bit, I'll be honest, when I got the recipe. But over the years, I've understood that everybody does things differently, and it's worth trying. But I love these, a good Aussie girl that I am, served just with a bowl of tomato sauce for dipping, like a meat pie. That's how I'm going to eat mine. You can put yours in your soup or not. I'm not judging, and do whatever you like. But let's start. Let's get the onions on first, because they're going to take about 10 minutes to get soft. So, word of warning, the recipe I gave you has 500 grams of mince, which does not seem like a huge amount, but it makes at least 80 little meat pies. So you can either make the meat, use a half of it, freeze the rest, make 80 pies, freeze some, cook some. So many options we'll talk about. Let's get the onions on to start with. I'm going to put the stove on high to start with 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And you know I'm not much of a measurer when it comes to this sort of thing. Baking, absolutely weigh and measure precisely. But when you're cooking something like a minced meat or a meat dish, you know what? Bit less, bit more. It's not going to impact anything, right? 2 tablespoons of olive oil in the pan, on high straight away. I want to get these onions sizzling quickly, okay? As soon as the olive oil is hot, which is going to be just a minute, I'm going to pop my onions in. Okay, so Naomi says, lucky for my South African husband. She has leftover chicken soup, and he'll be eating them in the soup, and she'll be having hers with tomato sauce. I love it. I love it. I love it. Hey, everyone who's saying hi. Thank you for all the waves and the hearts. Fills my heart with joy. Okay, oil is hot. Hear that sizzle? Put the onions in. I want to know that they're going to start cooking straight away, which is why I like it to be hot. Let me just move this. Okay, we need a wooden spatula. I had to throw out one of my favourite wooden spoons yesterday because it was completely cracked. And once the wooden spoon or wooden chopping board gets cracks in it, it's a really good place to harbour bacteria. So you've got to unfortunately chuck them out. Don't put them in the dishwasher is my word of warning. Okay, we're just sizzling for a minute. We're getting the heat going. I don't want golden fried onions for this, like for example the egg and onion. I want soft glassy onions. So once they get a lot of heat in them, I'm going to turn it down and pop the lid on. But before I do that, I'm just going to put a little pinch of salt. The recipe says a pinch of salt. Honestly, you need way more than a pinch. There's lots of things in here that need salt. So I'm going to put a really solid pinch in with my onions. Give it a stir. Thank you, Nebulous 2001. I'm glad you think my tomato sauce is to die for. I love it. We have freezer full of it all the time. And then it runs out and we've got to make it again. All right, very loud onions today. All right, that's good. Now I'm going to turn it down to medium-low. Hey, Brizzy Chris, good to see you. That's a bit better. And now I'm going to let them continue to cook. So remember, when we want glassy, we want to have it on a low heat for longer. The lid helps because it steams as well as fries, and it's very hard to get a golden fried onion with the lid on because of the water that it produces. So that's going to cook for about 5 minutes. We'll have a look at it and let's go through. Before I do that, I actually want to tell you about this recipe and this story. So in this book, we have lots of little family groups, which is what we wanted to. Sorry, Judy, it was 2 onions, 2 brown onions. This is for 500 grams of meat. It makes a lot of filling. I'm just warning you now. I've already frozen a batch because I made some so you can see the finished product and some so that it's cool already. It makes a lot of filling, okay? But you could make big pies, I guess, and use all the filling up. There's a thought. Okay, so in this book we have lots of little families, as I said, and we've got 3 sisters, Jane, Nikki and Kathy, and they were Milwitzky. That was their maiden name before they got married. They moved to Australia from South Africa when they were, I think, in their early 20s. Sorry if I've got that wrong, but round about then. And I think they moved at different times but ended up together, and they're still very close. They live around here, and it's lovely to see the families grow together with all their kids. And they gave us the most beautiful recipes, and they told us stories about their grandmother. One was called Stella and one was called Sadie. And Stella was the one who's given us the beautiful apple strudel in here that Jane makes, and it's like watching magic, the way she makes that strudel pastry. It's extraordinary. On a tablecloth covered with flour, we pull this pastry like a phyllo, a homemade. It's unbelievable. We really should get Jane to do it with us one day. It's just fantastic to see. And so this recipe comes from the other grandmother, Sadie. And Kathy tells the story how she loves to serve her children Sadie's perogan in Stella's chicken soup. So when they eat, they've got a bit of both grandmother. And that's just a beautiful story, and I love that. So this is the perogan from Sadie, and I'd never met a perogan. I never knew what it was. I hadn't heard of it. I knew nothing about it. So it's all new to me. And when you tell me you're going to make a meat mixture and then you're going to puree it with a stick blender, my first thought is, no pureeing meat. But when you do it, it's unbelievably good. And I'm going to show you step by step how to do it. It's fantastic. The thing I want to tell you is that we're going to make the meat mixture, and it's got to cool before you fill your perogan. So if you're cooking along, anyone cooking along today, let me know. Give me a thumbs up or a heart. You're going to have to let it cool. I suggest you get a little ice bath ready with ice and water, and then put a fresh bowl in there. And as soon as the mixture's cooked, which is probably about 15 minutes or 20 minutes, we're going to put it in there, okay, to cool. I've done one ahead so I can show you how to roll it, but just be patient. I don't want you to roll it while it's hot. It's just too hard. Okay, oh good, Dorot's cooking along, Nikki's cooking along, excellent. Marla, fantastic. Melanie, oh, you guys are awesome, unbelievable. Amit, thank you for cooking along, makes my day. All right, so let's talk about the pastry. So if you want to take a shortcut, which I love, and I do love a shortcut all the time, I would buy the pastry, okay? There's really good brands like Carême. My favourite with them is the sour cream short crust pastry. I like it more than the puff. I'm not such a puff fan. Or you can use Pampers Butter Puff, or you can use whatever you like. If you keep kosher and you don't have meat with a dairy pastry, then I understand that the kosher stores sell pastry that's not dairy. Okay, don't know if it's good, can't comment on it. That's a good option for you. The other option, obviously not for today, let me just turn this up a bit. I want it to sizzle. Not for today because you need more time. So in our third book, it's always about the food, we have a recipe for safta, I've forgotten it, Berekas, okay? I can't believe I've forgotten her name. It's terrible. I always remember everything. And just today when I need it.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
I'm not talking to you, Siri. I'm just going to look it up and show you. So these Berekas, you make the pastry from scratch. And originally it came to us with margarine instead of butter, and it really, really works well. I've made it with Nuttelex, and it's absolutely fantastic, okay? So if you want to make your own pastry and you want it to be dairy-free, this margarine one, this one is very good. So it's Safta Fellas Berekas. Yeah, I remembered before I saw it. So it's this in that book, and it's a rough puff. So you do some layering with the butter or the margarine, and it's really, really good. And I would recommend, if you want to make your own pastry that's dairy-free, I would do that with margarine. Oil pastry's hard. We've really, really made a lot over the years, and I haven't found one that gives me the flaky texture that I want. I just haven't. Okay, so admit your onions are overcooked. No, it doesn't matter at all for this. Okay. You must have started ahead, or are they golden brown perhaps? Sorry, Melanie, you wanted to know what page that was? 43, I think. I think it was 43.
It's okay.
Okay, I need to do something with Siri. She's just interrupting all the time. Okay, yeah, page, I'm going to say 43, okay, in It's Always About the Food. It's really worth doing. I want to do a session maybe on sausage rolls one day, because I used that pastry for sausage rolls, so it could be dairy-free with margarine, and it was absolutely fantastic. So if they're golden brown, that's fine. Just set them aside. It's all good. We're going to continue the onions in a minute. It's really very forgiving, okay? We're pureeing them anyway. As long as they're not burnt, it's all fine. All right. So I've talked to you about pastry. I've talked to you about the filling, how you're going to have to cool it before you fill it, and now we're just going to go on. So I want these onions to be soft, and those of you who have been with me for a few weeks know that the only way to tell if an onion is soft is to have a taste. And these are not soft yet. They're going to need another couple minutes, but they are yummy already. Lid on again. Let's get the rest of the ingredients ready. Okay, we're going to need 200 mils of red wine. Use something that you want to drink. Please don't use a crappy wine, because you're going to taste it in the thing. I'm not saying use your very best Penfolds Grange, okay? But use something that you want to drink. And it's only 200 mils, and you can drink the rest of the bottle for dinner. It's actually perfect. Dorrit, what can you use instead of wine? You can use a bit of stock. I think that would be absolutely fine. Some chicken stock would be great. Same amount, 200 mils. Or just water. It actually is fine. You could get away with it. I'm trying to think what else you would use. I think stock is the best. Chicken or vegetable, I think that would be perfect. I'm using wine because I'm happy to drink it tonight, so it's a win-win for me. Okay, we're going to need, I'm going to go through the ingredients. 2 cloves of garlic. Now, you all know, well, I won't say you all, but many of you know that I don't love garlic. So what you can do, and what I'm going to do, I'm just looking around what I did with my garlic clove. I left it over by the sink. If you want to add garlic, crush your 2 garlic cloves now and add them to the onion. For those of you who don't love garlic but tolerate it, I suggest that you do this. I'm going to take one. You can do two if you want. My family is very sensitive to garlic, so I really use a minimum amount. One clove, just pop it in, okay? Whole. And I am going to take it out before I puree it. Vino cotta into the, instead of wine, I think it's going to be too much competing flavours. We've got so much going on. I'd rather just use water, I think. Okay, let's go with the rest of the ingredients. And I'm going to put them in a little jug, not with the wine, because I'm going to do the wine first on its own, as soon as the meat is browned, okay? So let's just talk about the rest of the ingredients. We have got onions and garlic in here now. A sprig of rosemary, I have forgotten. Yesterday I used thyme. I have nothing today, so I'm using nothing, and that's absolutely fine. There's really so much flavour in this meat. You can do without the rosemary if you don't have it. And sometimes it's annoying to have to buy a whole packet or a whole bunch of herbs if you're going to use one stalk. And rosemary I don't use a lot. So no rosemary for me, but that's okay. We've got the mince ready to brown in a minute. I have got one small can, 400 grams of Italian peeled or diced tomatoes, whichever one you like. I am using whole tomatoes today, it doesn't matter. Just take that lid off carefully. Okay. Running out of space here. Okay, tomatoes. Then we need some tomato paste. And I'm going to put that straight in. I'm going to measure, it's about a tablespoon. I'm going to like blob it in and guess the quantity of that. Okay, good, Naomi, you've got no herbs either. Just leave them out. Who needs herbs today? You won't notice. Truly, it's got so much flavour, this meat, without it. So I think I'm very happy to go ahead. We've got tomato sauce. And I was going to say, and I don't mean to be rude or offensive or anything, but many recipes from South Africa come to us with tomato sauce. It seems to be like an essential ingredient in so much cooking. It's sort of like tomato soup was in some of the early Australian recipes that our European ancestors came and took on. You know, every meatball dish had tomato soup as a base. My Auntie Myrna's cabbage rolls have tomato soup in the sauce. So Robin's lucky she's got a garden full of herbs. Yeah, I've got a garden full of parsley and bay. That's all I can get to survive in my garden. I don't pay it enough attention. That's all. Okay, tomato paste. Then we're going to need ketchup mince, which is sweet soy sauce. Use it so many times. It's a great ingredient to have. If you don't have it today, I would suggest, instead of a tablespoon, I would suggest you use 2 teaspoons of just regular soy, okay? That's what you need. Ketchup mince is what we're using today. And of course, Worcestershire sauce, another ingredient I see often in South African cooking, a tablespoon of that. We're going to measure again when we put it in, okay? So, let's see how our onions are going. To me, they smell delicious already. My garlic is in there whole. And remember, will someone remind me? Soft, okay. My onions are soft. They've got a little bit of salt. And now I'm going to brown the meat. Now, I'm a bit torn on this, I have to say. Sometimes I find if my onions are too brown and then I want to turn it high to brown the meat, the onions burn. So if that happens to you, what you can do is take the onions out, put them on a plate, and then brown the meat on its own, which is also a good plan. Or brown the meat first in some oil, set it aside, go with the onions. We're going to do it as the recipe says today. So I'm going to take little bits of the meat and I'm going to turn the heat to high, watching the onions. I mean, what I suggest you do with your brown onions is set them aside, put them in a plate for a moment, start the pot again, and start browning the meat just with the meat. Okay, my onions aren't brown at all, so I'm very happy to do it like this. And just like you do with a bolognese, we're just browning the meat. I'm going to use a wooden spatula in a minute to sort of chop it up and saute it through the onion and the oil. You know, this is the base for a bolognese, this is the base for a shepherd's pie. There's lots of things you'd start off with, onions and meat. Yum. I love it. Alright, and now I get bored and just go like this and put it all in. You'll see it'll be fine, don't worry. Don't you worry, let me get a wooden spatula. I'm going to chop it up anyway, okay? I've got it on high heat because I'm trying to brown the meat. My aim here is to get rid of all the raw meat, okay? You can absolutely have the recipe, Robin, 100%. You could quarter it. Yeah, where's my puppy today? They're asleep. Took them for a walk. Exhausted. Okay, so just keep mixing it. I just don't want the onions to burn. And the good thing is the garlic's getting a nice run around the pan as well, my clove, which I'm going to try to remember to take out. Okay? So we're just getting all the rawness out of the meat. And my TV just went on. Can you bear with me 1 second? That's very strange. That was Gladys on my laptop, which is closed. I don't understand. Anyway, sorry about that. How's everyone going? Okay. Toss the meat. We're just trying to make it. I'll put on my better light for a minute. Cooked, not raw. Okay. That's the aim here. Okay. Now, the recipe then says to put everything else in, which you can, but let's do it in a sort of order, because I want to do it two things that I think are important. One is I always like to brown off, to cook the tomato paste when I put it in a dry-ish environment. So I'm going to put the tomato paste first. I'm going to cook it through till it's really hot and cooked, and then I'm going to add the wine. And I want to cook the wine on its own for a couple minutes. I know it's not traditional, it's not the recipe, but that's just the way I like to do it. Now, my meat is looking great. There's no rawness at all. It's all cooked. Starting to caramelize a little bit, but not too much. Okay, now I'm going to add the tomato paste. So I've got my onion, my garlic, rosemary or herb if you're using. The meat has been in and browned, and now I'm going to add, no I'm not, that's tomato sauce. I'm going to add tomato paste, which I haven't measured. We need 1.5 tablespoons. No, 1 tablespoon. Yeah, that'll do. Alright. And I've just sprayed it all over myself. Okay. And I'm just going to give it a saute. I'm going to toss my meat around, and I want the tomato paste to cook. Okay. How's everyone going? Those of you who are cooking, it's very hard to stir and type, I know. And those of you who aren't cooking, what do you think? So far so good? Are you happy? Once that's all cooked and smelling lovely already, I'm going to add my wine, one more. I just had to do that to get it to 200 mils. I didn't want to put too much in, okay? Yeah, I think that's good. Ready? In here. Wine in. Again, I want it to sizzle like that. I want it to start absorbing, start cooking, start boiling straight away. Getting all the alcohol off and just reducing it a little bit, okay? Thank you, Sue. Thanks. Sue says she's always happy watching me. Thank you. I'm so happy you're here. All right, it's on high. Nothing else to do but wait a moment. Shelley, yes, a good question. You can freeze at every stage. You can freeze the mixture for another day. You can make the perogan and freeze them raw. What you're going to do is put them on an oven tray or a tray in the freezer, spread out raw. As soon as they're frozen, put them in a bag, or you can layer them in a freezer-safe container. Either way works. Just don't layer them when they're not frozen, okay, because they're going to stick to each other and that won't be good, okay? That's what I love, is that these, you can make 80 of them, cook 10 today for lunch or afternoon tea or whatever, and then have the rest in the freezer. You pull them out and bake them from frozen. It's just such a good, quick little snack or whatever you want. Yeah, happy you're laughing out loud, Maureen. I'm laughing inside, yeah. Okay, so Carm's chilling out on her pillows. See, she's in Canada and it's night time. This is the bedtime cooking show for you in the USA and Canada. It's quite funny, actually. If anyone is watching, no, none of you are in South Africa because you would be the middle of the night, but I'm doing a charity thing tonight for Wheat So Johannesburg. If any of you have friends in South Africa, please send them an email to say that I'll be on if they want to get in touch with Wheat So Johannesburg and sign up for it. It's going to be a really fun cooking event. 180 rand it costs, which is about $18. Okay, I mean, your pastry should already be thawed if it was frozen, okay? Take it out now, but remember your meat mixture has to cool, so you've got to work it out. I want the pastry to be not fridge cold, but not completely room temperature either, sort of in between, okay? So I would suggest you take it out now because your meat's probably going to be ready in an hour or so. Okay, so now, talk so much, the wine has been fully absorbed, it's smelling lovely, and now I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients, which is 1 can of tomatoes, the tomato sauce or ketchup, 1.5 tablespoons, to make sure I don't forget anything, and ketchup mayonnaise, 1 tablespoon. No, let's start with the Worcestershire, 1 tablespoon. Worcestershire is a great thing. I was talking to my friend Kathy last night, who was saying that she had made the meatloaf gluten-free with gluten-free breadcrumbs, but didn't realise that whole Brooks Worcestershire is not gluten-free because it has vinegar made from barley, which is not gluten-free. So if you are gluten-free, you can use Lee and Perrin's Worcestershire, which is gluten-free. Just learnt that last night. And 1 tablespoon of ketchup mayonnaise. There we go. It's thick, lovely, sweet soy sauce. It's a great, great condiment and ingredient. Okay? That's it. That's all the ingredients, I think. I will check. Okay. Let's move this away because I am going to have to roll there in a minute or make my little pastry. So I'm trying to clean up as I go. By clean up, you know I mean just put it out of camera range. And leave the mess for a bit later. You know, when I finish these sessions and I say goodbye to you all, and I just look at the mess in my kitchen, I'm going to take a photo of my mess today and send it, put it online. I think it's quite funny. Okay, so you can see we've got this lovely mix of things, and like when you make any sauce, it's not anything yet. It's just a bunch of ingredients together, and it becomes a moment in time. With this, it's about 5 minutes or so when the ingredients start to come together and you have something delicious and it becomes a sauce, it becomes a dish, you know. Now it's just a bunch of things. So let's just stir it and appreciate that it is coming together, okay? And for this one, and I should have said it earlier, you can chop your onions really roughly because they're going to be pureed anyway, so you don't have to do fine chopping for this. And I'm just going to add a little bit more salt, just another good pinch. I'm going to taste it soon, and some pepper. It's not actually good practice to use the grinder directly over because it gets wet under there, and which is why I'm sort of doing it on the side like that. Pepper. Okay, how are we going? Lots of hearts, I love it. Yum. Now, the idea now is to cook it together for 5 minutes, the ingredients, until it starts to form a lovely, tastes delicious. It's got all those great flavours in it. Why wouldn't it be delicious? And it'll be even more delicious when it's pureed and the tomatoes and the onions are really spread through. And the idea is now to cook it just till it comes together. Let's say 5 minutes, okay? Your onions are already soft, your meat is already brown, and it's just a matter of getting these ingredients to combine nicely. Then we have to get out the stick blender. And I don't want to hear you go, ooh, okay, because you have to trust me on this. It really, really, really works. And even yesterday, I haven't made this for, I reckon, 5 years, a long, 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 long time. I did this on TV actually for Channel 10 on the Circle back in the early days, and used to make it all the time then. But you know, new books, new recipes, stop making them. Such a shame, but I'm happy to bring it back into circulation. So when I made it yesterday and got the stick blender out, I thought, really? But yeah, really, trust me. All right. I think that is good to go. Smells delicious. I'm just going to turn it down a bit because I don't want to burn myself. Literally going to get the stick blender. Just be careful if you're using a non-stick saucepan. I'm not. It can sometimes scratch it, so you've got to be careful. This one's sort of got rubber things on the bottom. Has it? No. You've got to be careful if you do that in a non-stick, which is why I am using a stainless steel today. Dorothy, this is in the first book, Monday Morning Cooking Club, The Food, The Stories, The Sisterhood, which is not incidentally available in our website anymore. We've sold out, but it is available through Amazon worldwide and Booktopia in Australia, and bookstores should have it perhaps. All right, so I'm just going to give it a bit of a zhuzh. Now, I'm not looking to make, thank you, Lily Jane 22. The garlic, oh my goodness me, thank you. How funny. Now I've got to find it. I've probably, you know what? I reckon I've just pureed it. I can't find it. Where's that garlic? Do you know what? There's half of it. I think that was the first thing I pureed, was the garlic. Thank you, everybody. You know what? You were just, and it's not your fault. It was my fault. 2 seconds too late. So I'm just taking out my bits of garlic. That is absolutely hilarious. I can't find it. All right, doesn't matter. Here we go. Here's a bit of it. No, that's an onion. Well, I can't stand here for 2 hours looking for garlic, can I really? So I'm going to actually give up, and we're just going to have more garlic. But there you go. Nothing wrong with pureed garlic. All right, let's go ahead. So I'm not looking for a paste here. I just want it to be I did check the bottom, and it's, did I? Was that it? You know what, I'm giving up. Doesn't matter. Garlic's in. There's a little bit. Yeah, I did definitely puree it because there's a bit. So I've got it in 2 bits so far. Oh, here we are. How funny that's the first thing that I got was the garlic. It's just too hilarious. Okay, it's all good. Thanks for your help, guys. You were just a bit late. I'm joking. All right, so now I'm just going to just do it like that. Okay, just do it like it. Just be careful, it splatters very hot. Now, I don't mind a bit of substance in it, so I'm really, as I said, not making a paste. I'm just giving it a bit of a blend, okay? Okay, that's going to do me. I think that's a really good texture. It really looks like a bolognese, but a fine bolognese rather than a chunky one, and that's exactly what I want. I can even see a few bits of onion, which is also fine. I just don't want a puree. Okay, so that's it. That's the level of blending. I'm going to pop this in the sink. And I'm going to pop it here so that it's part of my mess. Okay, so we can look at that afterwards. Now what we have to do is cook this for 10 minutes. Okay, and be careful when it boils. It splashes very, very violently, like a volcano. You can see. So put it on a back burner if you're standing at your stove, and otherwise you've got to stir it constantly, okay? Put your timer on 10 minutes, but what we're looking for is a thick sauce, okay? So that when you do that, see how I'm taking my spoon along the bottom of the pan, it stays apart, okay? That's the level of thickness we want. I just used the stick blender just now. Melanie, did you miss that? I was stick blending the sauce, which I just did, and I want it to be a bit thick like that, but still like a fine bolognese, okay? So I did my stick blending very quickly. So that's it. And now we can have a taste of the sauce and see what it needs for seasoning now that it's well blended. It's quite delicious. So nice. I'm going to add a little, remember it is going to reduce though, but I'm going to add a little bit more salt. Just a little, and a little bit more pepper. But apart from that, it's perfect. And, oh, can you see that's my dog. That's not the one, Winston, say hi. Come here, Winston. Hey. Winston, look. Like you can understand what I'm saying. This is Winston. He's not the one that was in the meatloaf photo. He's my other one. I've got 2 dogs. He's the puppy. He's 2 years old. And now he's drinking. And he drinks like a horse. I'm sorry, Melanie, I'll answer your question as soon as Winston stops drinking. Okay, so I'm going to keep cooking that. You don't need to see that. I'll keep cooking it over there so I can show you. And I'm going to start rolling the dough. Just give me a minute while I move my things around. And I'm going to keep that cooking so I'll show you how thick. If you don't have a stick blender, I would keep cooking it on the stove for another 10 minutes till it's reduced, and then I would put it in a food processor and just zoom it a couple times, but not while it's hot. It's really dangerous, and it'll ruin your food processor. I don't know if the heat will, but what I'm thinking is it's very red from all the sauce, and it sometimes stains food processors. Yeah, I do food processor, but I do it the other way around. Potato masher, I don't think would get the same result. It's worth trying because you're really crushing the meat as well. So yeah, maybe potato masher, worth trying. All right, let me just move this now over here. All right, turning it on low. So you want that on low, medium low, bubbling away while I go on to the next stage, okay? How funny that my garlic ended up in there. I think it's hilarious. All right, so let me just turn you around a bit. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing. Those lights off. All right, sorry it's a bit crooked, but I hope that's all right for all of you to see. All right. Okay, so cook for another 10 minutes, Robin, and then that will be fine. Or 20 minutes. Just, you've got to judge it and see. It needs to be thick enough so that when you move your wooden spoon or spoon over the bottom of the pan, it literally separates like the Red Sea and does not come back together, okay? That's what we're looking for. A well-cooked meat sauce, okay? Now, you can use that as a base for a shepherd's pie, which is what I'm going to do with that one because I've got a million perogan already ready to go. It's just delicious. You'll see it's a really good base for a shepherd's pie. I'm going to make some mashed potato, put it on top. You could sprinkle some cheese on if you're happy with cheese and meat, or just some olive oil on the top and bake it in the oven. I think that sounds really good. Okay, so what we're going to need now, we're going to need our pastry, which I have, and I'm using the Carême sour cream, which already comes rolled. So it's a cheap step. You don't have to do anything to it. It's actually rolled beautifully. I need some mixture, and this is my mixture that I made yesterday, which has been in the fridge. I took it out about an hour ago. That's what your mixture is going to look like. It's really exactly like a bolognese, okay? But it's just so nicely flavoured and has... I love it. I could eat that as a bolognese, actually, on pasta as well. It's right up my alley. Delicious. So that's the mixture. Again, freeze that, label it, lasts for ages, and then take it out if you want to fill something, or make your perogan. Now, we're going to need a baking sheet, baking tray with some baking paper on it. You're going to need a fork, a little bit of extra flour. Always when we're working with dough, we need some extra flour or pastry. And I'm going to flour my bench because I don't want it to stick, okay? And I'm going to put my very easily done rolled out pastry here. And I am a make-it-yourself pastry sort of a girl. I do love to make my own. But for something like this, so easy if you can find a nice one that you buy. Cupboard's open. If it's not rolled out, roll it out now, okay? So you get a rolling pin with some flour and roll it out till it is the thickness that you want. I'm going to go ahead because mine's already rolled out. Okay, I'm going to give my meat a stir. Don't forget to give your meat a stir. It's just thickening up and just getting richer. Thickening up and getting richer and richer by the minute, which is what we want. I've got my amazing cookie cutters, and I worked out yesterday that, well, you can either use a 6 or a 7 are probably the right size. The mistake that I made, and I made it yesterday, is that I overfilled them. Okay, you've got to take a bit of care. If you want a lot of filling, the filling, you know, in your pie, then go a bit bigger. But the pie the pastry to meat ratio will always be the same, I think. I'm going to go with the bigger one today just because it's a bit easier to roll, I should say. And what we want to do, and sometimes it's nice to put your cookie cutter in flour, and we're just going to cut out circles. Now the thing with puff pastry is that the scraps don't work so well. They, it ruins the layers. So keep your scraps, gently put them together, flatten it, and just let it sit till the very end of all your rolling, and then roll them again. But keep them aside because they're not going to be as good, okay? The brand I'm using is Perogen. Peppy Sayer, my favourite butter company, has just started doing puff pastry, and I can't wait to see what that's like. But at the moment, it's only for commercial businesses, not for the home cook. So Careme pastry, C-A-R-E-M-E. It's really, it's one of the best pastries you can buy ready-made. So I'm going to cut out my circles. Keep them close to each other because the scraps, as I said, aren't as good as the first cut for a puff pastry. Even a short crust, a sour cream short crust is slightly puffy and the scraps don't work as well. My pastry cutters, my cookie cutters are amazing. They are Debuyer, B-U-Y-E-R, and I bought them at Williams Sonoma years ago for $30, and they're really, it's a whole set, and I love them and I use them all the time. They're very good. So just cut your circles out. Now, it's also your choice if you want to glaze your pies with egg wash or not. I don't think you need to. If you're going to have them in soup, I definitely would not. If you want to serve them on their own, if you like the glaze on top, and I'll show you because I did both to show you, I'll show you how to do it as well. You don't really need to. So I think it's a bit of a waste of time, and I don't know that it adds anything. So puff pastry is the original recipe. I am using, keep forgetting what it's called, sour cream short crust, and because of the sour cream it's a bit puffy and it's delicious. You'll see it when I show you the cooked ones. Okay, so the pastry amount in the recipe is 1.2 kilos. I'm using a 445 gram pack, and that did about, so there's 9 here, it'll probably do 10 or 11, depends what size, or 12. It depends what size. So I'm going to take my scraps and just let them sit over here in a ball, in a disc I should say, till I'm finished, and then I'll do them again later, okay? But it really, because the thing about this pastry, especially puff, is that the layers are really beautifully made. So when you squish it like that, it sort of gets them unlayered again, but you still might have a good pastry as long as it rests now a little bit. Okay. Can you see my circles? Give your meat a stir if you're cooking it. Mine is looking, I want to show you, so lovely and thick. It really is. See, I've done that. I've put the spoon along the bottom and it really stays. It barely goes back together, but it still needs a little bit more. It tastes, you appreciate that I do like to taste as I go. So yum. Too liquidy though, it needs to cook some more. Okay? And make sure you've cooked your onions properly because you don't want to be crunching onions at this stage. Okay, then you take a teaspoon. A teaspoon is too much. If you do what I do and you overfill them, you're going to get little red tinged leaks, brown tinged leaks around the pastry. It's not the end of the world, but that's what's going to happen if you overfill. It's so hard not to overfill. So for this size, I'm doing probably 3/4 of a teaspoon, and you put it, trying to see which one you can see the best. You can see that one here. I'll show you close up. Roll the pastry. This is about 3 millimeters. It's beautiful, just like that. And then with clean fingers, I mean clean as in not with meat mixture on them, fold it over and seal it. Now I did a test run yesterday because I remember last time when I made them years ago, some of them leaked open during baking. And I tried to do a little bit of like a wet finger water around the inside or egg wash. It does help a little bit, but some of them still open. You have to just make sure that you seal them well with a fork. So they go like that. I've got a little half circle, hard to do it holding it. And then press down really hard, okay? You're sealing it with a fork. That's actually joining the pastry together on the edges, just like that. Of course, it's much easier to do when your thing's on the bench rather than balancing in my hand. But this is a perogan, okay? And some of them are going to leak a bit, and it's not the end of the world, but that's it, a cute little thing like that, right? And then we're going to finish the rest of these. And to cook them, you're going to need your oven on 180 degrees. And, well, actually, what you should do is read what it says on the pastry pack as well. This pastry likes to be cooked at 220, so I would cook this at 220. A puff pastry usually wants a higher temperature, okay? The diameter of my circles, either do a 6 or a 7, is a nice bite, couple of bites perogan size, okay? Again, and like, I think it's also good, instead of just doing one at a time, is to just firstly just put the teaspoon of mixture on each of them like this. In this size, I'll get my ruler just to check. This is probably 7. I'm putting about 3/4 to 1 teaspoon. If I have too much mixture, it will leak out. I sort of don't believe it will, but it always does. So try to be light-ish with your mixture. Not too light, because you do want it to be a meat pie, okay? Yum. The mixture's so good, you could put it in a ramekin and put pastry on the top of it. You could do it like that. The mixture is just yummy on its own. It really is. Okay, so that's it. Okay, they're done. And now we do the same thing to all of them. We take it and fold it over and just press it to seal. And see, my fingers are dirty from the meat, which I don't want because it's orange and red. It's orangey brown and it's not attractive. So again, try to keep the filling enclosed. I'll do one facing you like that. Press down the edges. Again, press down the edges. Try not to let the meat leak out. I was going to measure, wasn't I? Hold on. I'll just grab my ruler. My Selco wooden ruler that reminds me of school. It's very hard with the meat on it. I guess I can measure. Which one did I use? No, not that one. No, that one. Okay, so these ones are 8. So these are quite big, which is why they can fit so much meat in them. And I think the ones I made yesterday were smaller. Okay, so if you do have a lot of flour on your pastry, when you fold it over, it's going to be hard to stick and you will need some egg wash or some water to help seal it. Okay, so then I've got mine all sealed like that, semi-sealed I should say. Yeah, Robin, that's a good idea. If you wanted to use it for soup, exactly, wonton wrappers, and just boil them first, like ravioli or krepler, absolutely. So that's it, okay? And don't be shy to press hard because you are sealing it, okay? You do want to stop it from leaking and opening, and it will want to leak and open because the meat will heat and expand, and you know, it's sometimes hard to avoid little leaks, okay? Beautiful little things. You could get into a rhythm, make 80 in one day, pop them in the freezer, and then you've got them for a rainy day, which I love the idea of, but doesn't always happen. I've got a bunch of friends, we used to do cooking classes together when we were in our early 20s, late 20s, and we always said, let's have a stock day where we'll get together in someone's kitchen and make lots of stock for the freezer, and let's have a pastry day. Anyway, we've never, ever done it. We've been friends for now 30 years. We've never done it once. We talked about it all those years. So have a perogan day. Fill your freezer. Please do it, because I won't. I would like to talk about it, but it will never actually happen. Okay, see, sealed with a fork. Beautifully sealed. They look absolutely lovely. And if you do a bigger size, you really want to love your pastry, okay? So if you're using a crappy, some of the supermarket brands aren't brilliant, do you want to eat all that pastry that's not good? You've got to think about that when you make it. So you might want to make a smaller one that's just like a couple of bites, rather a whole big thing. Just think about which pastry you use. As I said, the creme sour cream is really, really good. Really good. And for those of you who are kosher, please look at the Safta Bareka's recipe and use Nuttall margarine instead of butter. It's really good. It's surprisingly great, actually. See, I've got a bit of sauce coming out the side, but you know what? Oh well. So that's my beautiful, and they look really nice. And I've made 9 because they're quite big today. And that's it. Now, if you do want to egg wash, and I'll show you what to do. Use what you have. Danny, who some of you met yesterday, husband, is on an egg white binge at the moment, so he has egg whites for breakfast every morning. So I've got yolks and yolks and yolks in the fridge. So I took 1 yolk, I put a little bit of water in, I beat it with a fork till smooth, and there's my egg wash. Otherwise, use a whole egg, and don't use a bit and chuck it out. Put it back in the fridge for a few days, because I'm sure something will come up and you think, oh, I wish I'd kept that egg. And you could also make scrambled eggs with it if you want. So I've got an egg yolk and water, and I'm just going to show you, if I wanted to do an egg wash, I would just paint it. And try to paint it evenly, because you will see when it's cooked where you've missed. I have to tell you that. All right, so just paint it nicely. I'm going to do 3. No, I'm just going to do 1 actually. You don't need to see me do that. So I've got 1, and I've turned it the other way so I can see the difference when I bake them. So I'm going to bake those at 200 degrees. Yeah, 200 will do for me. It says 20 to 30 minutes. Mine needed 30 yesterday. You have to judge for yourself. Check after 20, okay, and see how they are. I'm going to show you the ones that I cooked yesterday. All right. I'm going to give my meat a stir. It's actually looking ready. I want to show you. Oh, it looks just so good. Okay, this is my meat. That'll be the doorbell. See the meat? And see how thick it is, okay? That's the Red Sea there. Oh, except that I tipped the pan. But you know what I mean. Look, it really stays apart, okay? What's the time? Might get the... Hold on, can I get the door? Sorry. You know, you do your best. Hello? Hi. Come in. I'm just in the middle of an Instagram live, which I'll finish in a few minutes. So come in. Thanks. Come around the side. Thanks. Yeah, you're all laughing. I know. You're all laughing. I try so hard to plan my life well. And I've got someone coming to look at a broken mirror, and I said I'll be free at 12:30. Well, what's the time, guys? It's 12:23. Not free. Okay, so this is the sauce. It looks absolutely beautiful, and I think it's ready now to cool. If you're following along and you want in a hurry to get it cool, get a stainless steel or glass bowl, put it in an ice bath, put lots of ice cubes and cold water, and put it in it, okay, so that it cools quickly. You cannot fill your things until it's cold, okay? It just will be too hard. So, Cooper, Winston, they're barking. Okay, so here are my finished perogan from yesterday. Okay, and they're cold now, but they're delicious at room temperature. I tested one last night just because I know you wanted me to tell you this. I had it at room temperature. It was actually delicious, but they're ideal hot with tomato sauce. Now I want to show you, sort of a bit hard to tell. This is the one that's had egg wash on it. Okay, it's golden around the edges. And this is the one that didn't. It's not shiny. But to be honest, they've been sitting out in a container all night. Nothing wrong with them. It's better hot. It's better warm. It's better just cooked, of course, but they're pretty good. Inside you've got that beautiful meat. They're absolutely delicious. Have them in your soup if you want to have that. You know, some people have the soup, the perogan in one hand, the soup in the other, and do that. Some put it in the soup and let it go soggy. Whatever you like is the way to do it. I'm going to have these. I'm going to heat them up and have them for lunch with tomato sauce in the true Aussie way, because I love it. So that's it for me and the perogan. I hope that, sorry for all the disturbances today. I mean, you know, it's all happening in my house. What can I say? It's been fun having you all with me, and I hope that you make some lovely perogan. Tomorrow I'm back making wagon wheels, which I'm really excited about. Childhood memory, biscuit, jam, marshmallow, chocolate. What could be better? And I've thought about next week, and I think I'm going to have a week of salads. What do you think of that idea? I think maybe we'll have a bit of a healthier week. What do you think? I don't know. It may change my mind. So I'm just thinking about it. Would love to hear what your thoughts are. Please DM me on Instagram. I am there answering, talking, receiving your messages. Would love to know. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. And of course, stay safe and stay in. Do not leave home if you are in lockdown. And of course, make an appointment to get vaccinated, and get vaccinated if you haven't already. I'm just on my soapbox about that, and I hope everyone is too. Anyway, it's been fun.